I know most people use this stories to sleep, so I want you to get comfortable as you enjoy it. Before we continue, give this video a like and comment where you are watching from. Story 1. This happened to my roommate. Let me call him Kyle, as he didn't want his identity revealed. Around September 2021, we were living in Austin, Texas, and he was 28 at the time. Kyle had been talking to this girl, Amanda, on Bumble for about 2 weeks. She seemed great from what he told me. Funny, into the same music, worked as a nurse at Del Seaton. They'd planned to meet up a few times, but something always came up on her end. Shift changes, family stuff, her roommate's car breaking down. Normal excuses. Nothing that seemed like a red flag. Kyle's not the type to get hung up on that stuff. He figured if she was interested, they'd eventually find time. Then, one night, around 11 p.m. on a Thursday, she sent him a message. "I'm nearby. Want to meet for a drink?" Kyle was excited. He'd been playing video games in his room, but immediately got dressed, checked his hair, grabbed his keys. He asked which bar she meant. She said she was already at this place called The Barn, about 15 minutes from our apartment on 6th Street. I heard him leave. He seemed happy, told me not to wait up. He texted her when he arrived. "Here. Where are you?" "Back patio," she replied. Kyle walked through the whole bar. It wasn't crowded for a Thursday, maybe 20 people total. He checked the front patio, the back patio, even the side area where the smokers hung out. He texted her again. "I'm here. I don't see you." "Back left corner, blue dress." He went back to the patio, scanned every face, every table. There was no one in a blue dress, no one even close. He even asked the bartender if she had seen anyone matching that description come through in the past hour. She hadn't. Kyle tried calling, straight to voicemail. Then he got another message. "Why did you leave?" His stomach turned. He wrote back immediately. "I'm still here. I've been looking for you for 20 minutes. 3 dots appeared. Then, "I'm watching you right now." Kyle told me later that's when he felt it, that creeping sensation on the back of his neck. He spun around and looked at every face in the bar. Looked at the windows, the corners, the entrance. No one was on their phone. No one was looking at him. No one seemed to even notice him standing there. His hands were shaking when he typed, "This isn't funny." The reply came instantly. "Check your location settings." Kyle opened Bumble right there, standing in the middle of the bar. Went to his profile settings, and his blood went cold. His location sharing was on, set to always. He turned it off when he first downloaded the app months ago. He specifically remembered doing that, but somehow it was back on, broadcasting his exact location in real time. He turned it off, walked quickly to his car, and drove home. His hands were still shaking when he came through the door. I was still up watching TV, and I could tell something was wrong. He told me the whole story. We checked his phone together, went through every setting. Location was definitely off now. We even checked his Google timeline. He'd been at the barn for 23 minutes. No one named Amanda had checked in on any social media. No blue dresses in any tagged photos. He didn't hear from Amanda again that night. He thought about reporting it to Bumble, but wasn't even sure what to report. Catfishing? Harassment? Nothing illegal had actually happened. 3 days later, he got a message from a different account. Different name, Sophie M., different photos, blonde instead of brunette. The profile said she was a teacher. The first message said, "I'm nearby. Want to meet for a drink?" Kyle screenshot it and showed me. We both just stared at it. He matched immediately, deleted his Bumble profile entirely, Not just the app. He made me sit with him while he went through every privacy setting on his phone, every app that had location access. But a week after that, and this is the part that still bothers him, he got a text message on his actual phone number, the number he'd never given to anyone from the app, the number that wasn't connected to his Bumble account at all. It said, "I liked the blue shirt you wore last night." Kyle had worn a blue shirt the night before. We'd gone to a completely different bar with coworkers, a place called the Roosevelt Room, nowhere near the Barn or 6th Street. He'd been off the apps entirely for days. We moved apartments 2 months later. Different complex, different part of Austin. Kyle got a new phone number. He still won't tell me if he ever got another message after that. But sometimes when we're out at bars or restaurants, I catch him doing it. Scanning the crowd, looking over his shoulder, checking if anyone's watching him. He does it without thinking now, like a reflex. Last month, his coworker mentioned she'd matched with someone on Bumble who asked to meet up late at night and then claimed to be watching her at the bar even though she couldn't see anyone. Kyle didn't tell her about what happened to him. He just said she should delete the app. I don't ask him about it anymore, but I notice he never goes to the Barn. Even though it's one of the most popular spots in our area, even when our whole friend group wants to go there, he always suggests somewhere else. He never says why.
A profile called James in Boston. Last active 6 months ago. Tech job, Phoenix. Same opening line about coffee. I read through dozens of comments. Girls who'd matched, chatted, planned to meet. Most said the guy never showed up. A few said they'd gotten weird follow-up messages, asking them to wait in parking lots or meet at specific locations outside the venue. One girl said she saw someone watching her from a car but couldn't see their face. I didn't cancel the date right away. Part of me wanted proof, something concrete to report to the police or the app. So I messaged Emma and asked if she'd come with me, sit at a different table just in case. Saturday morning, I showed up at the cafe at 10:45. Emma was already there, sitting by the window with a book, pretending not to know me. I ordered a coffee and sat near the door where I could see the entrance and the parking lot. David never came. But at 10:47 a.m., 3 minutes after our planned meet time, I got a message on Hinge. "Sorry, running late. Can you wait outside? I'm in a blue sedan." My coffee was still too hot to drink, but I felt cold all over. I looked out the window at the parking lot. No blue sedan. No cars pulling in at all. I didn't respond. I just watched. Emma noticed my face and came over. I showed her the message. She looked out the window too. "There's no car," she said quietly. No blue sedan ever came. I stayed for another 30 minutes, then Emma and I left together. I deleted the match, blocked the profile, reported it to Hinge with screenshots of everything I'd found. What bothers me most, what still keeps me up some nights, is what happened an hour later. I got another message, this time on Bumble, from a completely different account, different name, different photo. This one was clearer, a guy with dark hair at what looked like a hiking trail. But the first message was identical. New to the area, coffee. I blocked that one too. Then I went through all my apps, Hinge, Bumble, even Tinder, which I barely used, and checked my matches from the past month. 4 of them had that same opening line. 4 different accounts, 4 different photos, but the exact same words. I deleted all my dating apps that night. I reported every profile I could find to the platforms, though I have no idea if anything was ever done about it. I think about that gray hoodie guy in Emma's photo sometimes. The one who wasn't David, but wore the same clothes, stood the same way. I think about how he was positioned in the frame, standing so still, facing the camera like he knew exactly where it was. Emma went back through her photos from that night. She'd taken maybe a dozen shots at the bar, different angles, different times. He was in 7 of them, always in the background, always watching the camera. She didn't remember seeing him there at all.
My name is Sarah, and this happened in March 2022, when I was 26, living in Portland, Oregon. I'd been on Hinge for about 3 months, mostly duds, a few okay dates, nothing serious. I wasn't desperate or anything, just bored on a Tuesday night when I matched with someone named David K. His profile was minimal. 1 photo. Him standing in what looked like a parking garage, wearing a gray hoodie, face slightly blurred like he'd moved during the shot. The bio just said, "New to the area. Coffee?" We chatted for maybe 20 minutes. Normal stuff. He asked where I worked, what I did for fun. I asked him the same. He said he'd just moved from Phoenix for a job in tech. When I asked what company, he said he'd rather talk about it in person. Fair enough. I liked that he wanted to meet face-to-face instead of texting for weeks. We planned to meet that Saturday at a cafe near my apartment. Something casual, public, safe. The weird part started Thursday night. I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw a photo my coworker Emma had posted from a happy hour the night before. In the background, slightly out of focus, was a guy in a gray hoodie standing by the bar. Just standing there, not talking to anyone, not holding a drink. I stared at it for a long time. The angle was wrong to be sure, but the image was grainy. But something about the posture looked familiar. The way he stood, hands in pockets, shoulders slightly hunched. I went back to David's profile. Compared the photos side by side, the hoodie was the same shade of gray, same build, same height it seemed. But Instagram guy's face was clearer in the shot, and it definitely wasn't the same person. I told myself I was being paranoid. Gray hoodies aren't exactly rare in Portland. Half the guys I knew owned one. Friday morning, my friend Jessica texted me a screenshot. "Is this the guy you're meeting tomorrow?" It was David's profile. Same photo, same blurry parking garage shot, same gray hoodie. But the name was Michael R., and the location was Seattle, not Portland. "Where did you find this?" I asked, my hands suddenly cold. She said, "Bumble. He super liked me yesterday. Thought the photo looked weird, so I wanted to check with you." I felt my stomach drop. I opened Hinge, went to David's profile, and stared at that blurry photo for a full minute. Something about it felt wrong now. The blur wasn't natural. It looked almost intentional, like someone had edited it to be just unclear enough. Then I did what I should have done from the start. I screenshotted the photo and reverse image searched it. 63 results. The photo had been used on Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, OkCupid, Match, and even some apps I'd never heard of. Dozens of profiles across the country, all with different names. Some profiles were still active, some had been reported and removed. One Reddit thread from 2019 called it a catfish template and had over 200 comments from people who'd matched with it. But here's the thing that made my hands shake as I scrolled through the results. In every single profile, the bio was slightly different, but the details matched the conversations.
Michael R. in Seattle had told Jessica he worked in tech and just moved from Phoenix. Someone named Aaron L. in Denver had told a girl on Reddit the exact same thing, word for word, 3 years ago.
Story 3. The correct answer. My name is Jen, and this happened in July 2023. I was 24, living in Philadelphia. I matched with a guy named Eric on Hinge. His profile was thoughtful. Good photos, not overly filtered. A bio that suggested he actually read books and had hobbies. He was 27, worked in finance, liked hiking and live music. We started messaging on a Tuesday evening. The conversation was good. Better than good, actually. He asked real questions, not just the "how was your day" stuff most guys opened with. Deep questions. What's your favorite childhood memory? I told him about the summer my dad taught me to swim at Lake Wallenpaupack. How I was terrified at first, but he was patient. What's the worst thing that ever happened to you? I told him about my grandmother dying when I was 16, how I didn't get to say goodbye because I was at a friend's house when it happened. If you could change one decision in your life, what would it be? I told him I wished I'd studied abroad in college. My roommate went to Spain and had this transformative experience, and I'd been too scared to go. I answered them because, honestly, they felt meaningful, like he actually wanted to know me, not just what I looked like or whether I'd sleep with him. We messaged back and forth for 3 days, these long, thoughtful exchanges that felt rare on dating apps. We planned to meet that Friday at a wine bar downtown called Tria. I got there first, ordered a Malbec, and waited. Eric showed up about 20 minutes late. Apologetic, exactly like his photos. Maybe slightly shorter than I expected, but otherwise the same. Clean cut, nice smile, good handshake. We found a table in the corner and started talking. For the first hour, it was great. He was charming, attentive, asked good follow-up questions about my job teaching 3rd grade. I told him about this kid in my class, Marcus, who'd been struggling with reading, but just had this breakthrough moment that week. Then in the middle of my story, Eric interrupted me. "You changed your answer," he said. I stopped mid-sentence. "What?" "The question I asked you about the worst thing that ever happened to you. You told me it was your grandmother dying, but just now you mentioned getting in a car accident sophomore year of college." I stared at him, my wine glass halfway to my lips. I had mentioned a car accident. I'd been telling a completely different story about why I was scared of highway driving, and it came up naturally. But I didn't remember specifically telling him it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. "I guess both were pretty bad," I said slowly. "I don't really rank them." He smiled, but his eyes stayed flat. "You should keep your stories straight." The tone was light, almost joking, but something about it felt off. I laughed nervously and tried to move the conversation forward, but the rest of the date felt wrong. He kept doing it, circling back to things I'd said in our messages, reciting them word for word like he'd memorized a script. When I made a joke about my principal, he said, "That's different from what you told me on Thursday." I tried to remember what I had said about my principal on Thursday. I didn't think I'd mentioned him at all. When I told a story about my college roommate, Katie, he said, "I thought your roommate's name was Sarah." I had multiple roommates. Katie was junior year, Sarah was senior year. You said Sarah went to Spain, but you also said you wished you had studied abroad. So Sarah went, or you wanted to go? My chest felt tight. Sarah went. I didn't. I wish I had. That's not what you said before. I ended the date early, Said I had an early morning, which was true. Eric walked me to my car and asked if I wanted to do it again. I said I'd let him know, then drove home with my hands gripping the steering wheel too hard. When I got back to my apartment, I went through our entire message history. I'd sent maybe 30 messages total over 3 days. But when I read them all together, I realized something that made my skin crawl. He'd asked me the same questions multiple times, just phrased differently. What scares you most on Tuesday? What's your biggest fear on Wednesday? What keeps you up at night on Thursday? I'd answered all of them slightly differently each time because they felt like different questions in the moment. I said I was scared of failure, afraid of being alone, kept up at night thinking about my students. 3 different answers to the same question. And he'd been cataloging every single one. I scrolled back further, looked at every question he'd asked me, every piece of information I'd volunteered. The patterns were everywhere. He'd asked me about my childhood 4 different ways, my job 3 different ways, my relationships, my family, my fears, all of it, repeated, reworded, spread across dozens of messages so I wouldn't notice. I unmatched him immediately, blocked his number, tried to forget about it. Then 2 weeks later, I got a message on Instagram from an account with no profile picture, no posts, no followers. The username was just a string of numbers. It said, "You also said you were afraid of being alone. Was that true?" I'd never told Eric my Instagram handle. It wasn't connected to my Hinge profile. My Instagram was under a slightly different name. I used my middle name instead of my first. I made my account private immediately, didn't respond, blocked the account. Then I noticed something in my message requests, the folder where Instagram puts messages from people you don't follow. There were 4 other accounts there, all blank profiles, all with messages I'd never opened because I thought they were spam. I opened them one by one, hands shaking. They'd been sitting there for months, all sent before I'd even matched with Eric on Hinge. The oldest one was from March, 4 full months before we matched. It said, "I'm looking forward to meeting you." Another one from April, "Do you still think about your grandmother?" One from May, "The car accident wasn't your fault." I'd never posted about any of those things publicly. Never mentioned my grandmother on Instagram, never talked about the accident. Those were things I'd only told Eric in our private messages on Hinge. Except these messages were sent before we ever matched. Which means whoever sent them already knew those things about me. Which means Eric didn't ask me those questions to get to know me. He asked them to check if I'd give him the same answers.
Story 4. This happened to my cousin Marcos in January 2024. He's 30, lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. Marcos had been seeing this girl, Lindsay, for about 3 weeks. They'd met on Tinder back in late December, gone on 4 dates, and he really liked her. She was smart, easy to talk to, had a good sense of humor. She worked as a graphic designer for some marketing firm downtown, had a golden retriever named Biscuit, liked hiking and trying new restaurants. Everything seemed normal. The only slightly odd thing was that she always insisted on meeting at her place or his, never in public for their dates. When Marcos suggested trying this new sushi place, she said she'd rather order takeout to her apartment. When he wanted to go to a movie, she said she preferred watching something at home.
Her explanation made sense. She had pretty bad social anxiety, and crowds made her uncomfortable. Marcos didn't push it. He liked that their dates were more intimate anyway. Just the two of them talking for hours without the noise of a restaurant or the distraction of other people. Then one night, it was a Tuesday, around 8 p.m., Marcos was at her apartment. Lindsay had gotten up to take a shower, and her phone was sitting on the coffee table next to him. He wasn't trying to snoop. He was just sitting there, scrolling through his own phone, when hers buzzed. The notification lit up the lock screen, and Marcos glanced at it automatically. Tinder Bot Pro, 14 new matches, automated responses sent. He stared at it, read it 3 times. Then the phone buzzed again. Schedule updated. Marcus, 7 p.m. Thursday. His name is Marcos, not Marcus, but close enough to make his stomach drop. The phone buzzed a 3rd time. Response script loaded. Profile ID 8473. Marcos sat there, frozen, listening to the shower running in the bathroom. His brain was trying to make sense of what he was seeing. Maybe it was for work, some kind of social media management tool for her clients. But the name, Marcus, 7 p.m. Thursday. Lindsay came out of the bathroom about 5 minutes later, hair wrapped in a towel, smiling. Want to order Thai food? Marcos tried to act normal. Sure. Hey, random question. Do you use any apps to manage your messages? She stopped halfway to the kitchen. What do you mean? Like automation stuff. For work, or whatever. Her face didn't change, but something in her posture shifted. Her shoulders tensed just slightly. Why are you asking? Just curious. A friend of mine was telling me about some tool he uses for customer service. Oh! She relaxed a little. No, I don't really use anything like that. They ordered food, watched part of a movie. Marcos left around 11 p.m., making an excuse about an early meeting the next morning. When he got home, he opened Tinder and looked at Lindsay's profile again. It was still in his matches, but something was different. Her bio had changed. It now said, updated 3 hours ago. But she'd been with them 3 hours ago. She'd been in the shower when her phone buzzed. She couldn't have updated her profile. He scrolled through her photos more carefully this time. In one of them, she was at a restaurant with exposed brick walls and Edison bulb lighting. He recognized it immediately. It was Dressler's, a place he'd mentioned wanting to try during their second date. The photo had been posted the day after that conversation. Marco started going through their text history with new eyes. Messages that had felt personal, specific, perfectly tailored to his interests. References to bands he liked. Questions about his family that showed she'd been paying attention. And then he noticed the pattern. Every time he'd mentioned something, a movie, a book, a childhood memory, Lindsay had brought it up again exactly 2 days later. Not the next day, not a week later, exactly 2 days. I loved that movie as a kid too, she texted him on a Friday, referencing something he'd mentioned on Wednesday. My dad was in the Navy too, she'd said on Sunday, after he'd mentioned his father on Friday. Every response perfectly timed, every callback perfectly spaced. Marcos spent the rest of that night going down a rabbit hole, Googling relationship automation tools, dating app bots, AI girlfriend. He found Reddit threads about services that use AI to maintain multiple conversations at once, learning preferences for message history and generating responses that feel authentic. Some were designed for businesses, customer service chatbots that could handle dozens of conversations simultaneously, but others were specifically for dating, Tools that let one person maintain relationships with dozens of matches at once, automating the tedious parts, scheduling dates, even generating personalized messages based on the other person's interests. The next day, Marcos texted Lindsay, "I know what you're doing." She responded immediately, "I don't understand." He stared at his phone, watching the 3 dots appear and disappear as she typed. He wrote back, "You're not real." The 3 dots appeared for almost a minute. Then, "Of course I'm real. I'm right here." But here's the thing that still bothers Marcos. The thing he told me about when he came over last month and we talked about it over beers. The response time was instant. No hesitation, no confusion. No, "What are you talking about?" or "That's crazy," or any normal human reaction. Just a perfectly calibrated response, the kind that makes you second guess yourself. He wrote, "Prove it. Call me right now." The 3 dots appeared for almost a minute. Then, "I'm at work. Can't talk now. Can we discuss this tonight?" Marcos blocked her number. But 2 weeks later, he was showing Tinder to his friend Mike, swiping through as a joke, and Mike stopped him. "Wait, go back." It was Lindsay. Same photos, same bio, different name. Lindsay with an E instead of an A, located 5 miles away instead of 3. Marcos clicked on the profile. The first line of her bio said, "I love hiking and trying new restaurants." That was word for word what Marcos had written in his own profile. He had deleted it after the whole Lindsay thing, but it had been there for months. He screenshotted it, sent it to the old number he had blocked to see if it was the same person. The message didn't deliver. He tried calling, disconnected. Mike asked if he was okay. Marcos said he was fine. They kept swiping. But 3 profiles later, they found another one. Different photos, different name, different age. Same bio, "I love hiking and trying new restaurants." And another one after that. And another one. Marcos deleted Tinder that night. But sometimes he still wonders how many of them there are. How many conversations are being run by the same script, the same schedule, the same automated responses. He wonders if Lindsay, or whoever was behind those messages, ever actually went on dates, or if that was automated too. Pre-recorded videos for the video calls he never asked for. A schedule of availability that felt natural, but was really just optimized for maximum efficiency.
Story 5. My name is Alicia, and this happened in November 2023. I was 29, living in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I went on a date with a guy named Trevor from Hinge. We met at a coffee shop called Spy House on a Sunday afternoon. It was one of those places with high ceilings and lots of natural light, always busy but not uncomfortably crowded. We talked for about 2 hours and it went great. Genuinely great. He was polite, funny, asked thoughtful questions. We talked about our jobs, our families, places we'd traveled. It felt easy and natural. Trevor was 31, worked in insurance, had grown up in Wisconsin. He told me this story about his brother's wedding where the best man got so drunk he gave the toast twice because he forgot he'd already done it. I laughed hard at that one. He told me about his college roommate who'd been convinced their apartment was haunted and would sleep with a baseball bat next to his bed. We planned a second date for the following Friday, dinner this time, somewhere nicer. That week, we texted a little bit. Nothing excessive, just checking in, sharing memes, the usual rhythm of early dating. He sent me a photo of his lunch on Wednesday with the caption, "Proof I eat vegetables." I sent him a video of the snow starting on Thursday. Normal stuff. Friday came, and we met at an Italian restaurant downtown called Buca. I got there first, checked my coat, and waited at the bar. When Trevor walked in, I waved. He walked over, gave me the same smile, the same quick hug. We were seated at a table by the window. And that's when I started to feel it. That strange, prickling sensation that something was off. Not wrong exactly, just off. He ordered a Manhattan, the same drink he'd ordered at the coffee shop, even though it had been afternoon then and now it was evening. I thought that was fine. People have preferences. But then we started talking, and halfway through the appetizer, I realized what was bothering me. He was telling me the same stories. Word for word. The brother's wedding, the drunk best man, the toast given twice, the exact same phrasing, the same pauses for effect, the same punchline. I laughed politely, but my chest felt tight. Maybe he just forgot he'd already told me. People do that sometimes, especially if they're nervous or if the story's a go-to icebreaker. But then he told the one about his college roommate, the haunted apartment, the baseball bat. Again, word for word. I set down my fork. You told me that story last week. Trevor blinked. Did I? Yeah, at Spy House, the coffee shop. Oh. He looked genuinely confused for a second. Sorry, I guess it's just a good story. I probably tell it a lot. That phrase, I probably tell it a lot, made sense, but it didn't feel right. We kept talking. He asked me questions about work, about my family, normal second date stuff. But then, about halfway through the main course, he said, "So what do you do for work?" I stared at him, set down my wine glass carefully. I told you last week, I'm a middle school teacher. He blinked again. Right. Sorry, I meet a lot of people. I meet a lot of people. That phrase stuck in my head like a splinter. Who says that on a second date? You're supposed to be trying to get to know one person, not juggling dozens. After dinner, Trevor suggested going to a bar nearby him. There's a great cocktail place around the corner. You'll love it. We walked 3 blocks to a place called Marvel Bar. He held the door open, and we found seats at the bar. He ordered a Manhattan, again. Told the bartender he'd heard great things about this place. But I'd been here before, multiple times. It was one of my favorite spots in the city. And the way Trevor was acting, looking around like he was seeing it for the first time, commenting on the decor, felt staged. Then he started telling another story. This one I hadn't heard on the first date, but I recognized the rhythm of it, the structure. A story about a vacation gone wrong, a missed flight, a hotel mix-up. It was funny, well told, but it felt rehearsed, like a stand-up routine he'd performed 100 times. I finally said, "Trevor, have we been here before, to this bar?" He looked around, squinted a little. "I don't think so. Why?" "Just, you seem comfortable here." He shrugged. "I like bars. They all kind of feel the same after a while." I couldn't explain what I was feeling, but something about the way he moved, the way he spoke, felt like muscle memory. Like he'd done this exact date, in this exact location, with this exact sequence of stories. I made an excuse about being tired and left around 10 p.m. He walked me to my car, asked if he'd see me again. I said I'd text him. When I got home, I sat in my car for 10 minutes before going inside. Just thinking, trying to figure out what felt so wrong. I went back through our messages. They were all there, proof that we'd texted that week, proof that we'd had a first date at Spy House, proof that this was only the second time we had met. But then I did something I probably shouldn't have. I zoomed in on one of his Hinge photos. It was a casual shot, him sitting at what looked like a home office desk, smiling at the camera, but in the background, barely visible, was a corkboard on the wall. I zoomed in as far as my phone would let me. The image was grainy, but I could make out sticky notes. Lots of them, different colors. And on those sticky notes were names, dates, bullet points. I could only read one clearly. It said Alicia, teacher, likes red wine, allergic to cats. I'd told him all of those things on our first date. The teaching job, my preference for red wine, my cat allergy that meant I could never date someone with cats. I stared at that photo for a long time. Tried to convince myself I was seeing things, reading too much into a blurry image. But I knew what I was looking at. I unmatched him, blocked his number, deleted the entire conversation thread so I wouldn't be tempted to go back and reread it. About a month later, my friend Chloe matched with someone on Hinge. Showed me his profile, asked me what I thought. Different name, different photos, but the first line of his bio said, "I love Italian food and good conversation." Something about the phrasing made my stomach turn. I asked her what he said to you. She pulled up their messages. His opening line, "So what do you do for work?" I felt cold. "Chloe, don't meet him." "Why? He seems nice." I didn't know how to explain it. That the phrasing felt familiar. That the question felt like a script. And that I had this terrible certainty that if she went on a date with him, he'd tell her a story about a wedding and a drunk best man. She went anyway. I didn't want to seem controlling or paranoid. She texted me afterwards. Date was fine. Kind of forgettable, though. He told this story about his brother's wedding that I swear I've heard before. I asked if she was going to see him again. Probably not. Something felt off. Like he was going through the motions. I didn't want to tell her everything. About Trevor, about the sticky notes, about the repeated stories. But I didn't know how to explain it without sounding crazy. Instead, I just said, "Trust your gut." 2 weeks after that, another friend matched with someone. Different app this time, different photos, different name. Same opening line. "So what do you do for work?" I started keeping a document. Screenshots of profiles my friends matched with, ones that felt familiar somehow. Similar bios, similar message patterns, similar conversation structures. I have 17 profiles saved now. I don't know if they're all the same person. I don't know if Trevor was real or if that was even his actual name.
In case you ever match with a Trevor, take a screenshot because you might help me solve this case. If you enjoyed this stories, give a thumbs up and comment which one you loved the most. Wish you a good night rest.